Thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica podcast. I am Mustafa Sherif, an urban planner, and you're more than welcome to join my big journey of exploring the making of smarter and more livable cities. Please don't forget to follow Urbanistica on the different social media platforms, and also let's connect on LinkedIn. Big thanks to Urbanistica podcast partner AFRI. AFRI is an international engineering and design company providing sustainable solutions in the fields of energy, industry, and infrastructure. Are you ready for a new episode? Let's go for it. So, hello and welcome to Urbanistica podcast, Anna.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm pretty okay. I think it's a boring season in Sweden, but other than that, I think it's pretty okay.
Yeah. So you don't like the weather, no?
I would say every single year I'm surprised this part of the year that I'm still here. when you have so many different climates to choose from,
Right?
And then why?
Why?
But then the rest of the year, I enjoy most of the seasons. But this one, I think, if it's without snow like it is now, then I think it's pretty boring.
Yeah. That's true.
Gray, dark.
So what is your dream scenario if you choose to be in one place, like not here?
At this point, I would be happy with almost anything where you could see something green something blue
Anyway.
or I'm not picky.
Yeah.
Give me something that is not as gray as this, and I would be fine. It doesn't even have to be warm. Just not this.
How is it going
Sorry,
at work?
Sweden. Yeah.
Is it too much to do now at work, or how is the situation?
I mean, I would guess we started our foundation 20 years ago, and it has always been too much to do.
Okay.
Maybe I'm getting too old and ignorant, so I don't feel as pressured at this
I
point.
don't think so.
But I think it's a pretty constant pace where we have too much to do, and we're always lacking behind.
Yeah.
And we have huge visions, and they are almost never possible to fulfill. Yeah.
So let's get into the story. You are our storyteller. How would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Maybe I should say that I'm an accidental career person.
Okay. Which means?
Which means, I guess, that when I was a kid, my intention was never to do a career. I never thought strategically. I just wanted to become an artist, or maybe an architect, actually.
Okay.
That was also a childhood dream. But I didn't really work in that direction. I followed my heart, and I thought I was going to become a photographer. And my plan was never to change things or work big scale or have a reach out. Both my parents are artists, so I know what it's like to be an artist if you're not world famous.
Yeah.
Basically, you do whatever you like with no money, and no one knows what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
That's sort of, and that was actually what I was planning for. But then when I was 16, I met the husband I live with now, Ola, and his father was Hans Rosling.
Yeah.
At that time, he was a medical doctor and a teacher. And gradually, we started, both me and my husband, listen to his stories and frustrations, and we started helping him out on our spare time.
Okay.
Which gradually grew into something that was passion-driven, which gradually grew into a work, and which where we have basically together with a small team invented new ways of visualizing world development and dreaming big. I would say. So I mean, in that sense, I would say I followed my dream. So it's as passion-driven as I intended, but at a bigger scale than I planned for.
Do you think it was like something like it's destiny, or no, you made like a very clear and specific choice Or no, you just follow the flow and become like a destiny?
That's a good question. No, I think that's the thing with something being passion driven. That on one hand, I think you get a vision where you want to be, what you not where you want to be, like
some image about what you want to do, or
I think you need to have a long-term goal or see something that you're frustrated about that you want to change, and you start doing it, start working tirelessly in that direction. And if you do, some of us have had at least a minor chance to change a few things. And most people who follows their dreams and their passions, I guess, will not, because of bad luck and, different things happening. So I guess I've been lucky in that sense. So, I mean, I'm still frustrated because I haven't achieved a thing of what I wanted to achieve, right? But at least
this is the thing with having like a big vision.
Yeah.
It's like kind of you will never reach your vision and make it happen, but you're always working toward this vision somehow.
Yeah. So I mean, in my personal life, I've been always very interested in inequalities in different ways, and society, and how it works and how to understand it.
Yeah.
And then I always loved visual stuff. So in a way, I managed to find a way of do both.
Put together,
Yes, and I think that is what I've been working with all the time, right?
Yeah.
Finding different ways of trying to make the world easier to understand by using visual ways of trying to present it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we say that now you're living the dream of your career, or there's something you wanted?
I would say I didn't have a clear career dream, but I had a vision what I wanted to achieve.
Okay, yeah.
In a way.
Okay,
and then it took me through career moves that was, in a sense, unintended, right?
Yeah. So share with the listeners, what do you do now? Like, what is your position? Yeah. And then we can start talk about Gapminder.
Yeah. So currently I'm... I think my current title is VP of the Gapminder Foundation. Yes, because I've changed it now and then over time. Okay. I think that is my current one.
Yeah. What did you start with in the beginning, if you remember?
No, I don't remember. That's a good question that I need to check up, because I changed quite a lot.
No, because you have been a long time in the foundation.
I mean, I was one of the co-founders, and we've always been very few people.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, I've been doing almost the same things, same type of things all the time.
Yeah.
But it has, in different periods, I have identified more or less with different portions of that. And at one point, I think I thought that VP was maybe the best way to describe what I was doing, having an overall idea.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. So at some portions in time, I'd been like a designer or UX experience head or something. I don't even remember.
Yeah. So tell us about Gapminder. Like, when was the year that foundation was founded and so
on? Well, I mean, before the foundation was founded, we actually had started working in under different umbrellas, you could say, earlier. So the actual work that then became Gapminder Foundation started around 1999. So it's quite a while. Yeah. But the foundation was started in 2005. Before that, we were like, I don't know what you call it, enskild firma. For a while.
Not freelancer, but like you have your own company, something like this.
Yeah. So we had that, and then we had an Inc. for a while, aktiebolag. But that didn't really feel good and wasn't really working out according to the ways we were heading.
Okay.
So we changed again and became a foundation which was closer to our hearts.
Yeah.
Because we were not looking for
making profit.
It was more like finding a costume in which we could develop our ideas.
Yeah. But when you say we, it was like you, your husband,
and Hans Rosling, which is so it's sort of a family thing. And then we have had, but we have had people working with us
also
since the beginning, and we've been. I mean, of course, it's a long time, but we have been going a little bit back and forth between being like maybe from 4 or 5 up to maybe 15, and then we grown and shrink, like a little bit.
What do you call it? Organically?
Pretty organically, yeah. I mean, as we're mainly grant funded, and then it will depend on the projects we're currently working on, how many we can be, and
exactly,
and what kind of work we're doing at the point, and how many needs to do that, and so forth.
So what is like the mission of Gapminder?
Yeah, we have. You could say that the overall mission is to promote a fact-based worldview that everyone can understand. So it's about. I mean, we have a core belief that if people understand the world around them better, we think they will make better decisions. And that we say without having a certain political agenda or anything. It's more like probably it's better if people are a little bit fact-driven before they make their decisions. So I would say that is the thing. And I think we are, as I said before, that I really like the visual way of explaining the world. It's about giving people tools to understand the world more easily without having to read like whole academic papers, because in reality, very few people will.
Yeah, this is what we know.
So sort of trying to give the overview for the ones who wouldn't spend the time digging in.
On reading like 300 pages of reports.
Exactly.
Just to figure out that kind of data.
Exactly. So. And I mean, even if those reports might be perfect.
They are perfect, but
in reality,
there are so many pages, so people will not like put so much
and
time.
not all of them are perfect either. So.
Okay, yes.
But a few of them are, and just figuring out which are the good ones.
Then it takes.
I mean, that's already a huge task.
Yeah. No, because recently, now more related to urban planning, I see like we have so many reports from big organizations, and like when you open the report, you open the PDF, it's like 350 pages. Yeah. And I'm thinking, like, seriously, is this like a report or a strategy or what is this document about?
Yeah.
And it takes so much time to read and just to how to say to summarize the importance for me in this case.
And I would say when we started pretty much there because we were looking at some of the UN reports at the time, because
usually they are very big.
They are very big, yes. And it's all about, I mean, it's one good thing that the data came up from where it was hidden before into at least a format people could find the data.
Yeah.
But honestly, very few people get the reports, and of those who get the report,
read it.
How many would read it? So it started very much as a project where we wanted to release data from big organizations and make it freely available and visible online. So people didn't have to go to the reports. They could more find just the data and get a quick overview. So we started very much also by trying to focus on the data from big organizations that used to be hidden in silos. So they had them in drawers at their offices, and every office had their own, and you could seldom combine. And how can you make good decisions if you can't see an overview? Because the data sets would be overlapping.
Yeah.
So we started by actually trying to find ways of making the data come together. And that's when we sort of accidentally invented a new user interface.
Okay, but none of you working with like a visual design, right? Or how come that you design so clear diagrams describing so complex information?
I think it's because we are we intended to become artists, so that was our education, right?
Yeah.
So I think we kept the integrity from developing the materials that we thought made sense.
Yeah.
So we didn't really pay so much attention about how you should do or how you usually do. So we did it. We worked with the data until we thought it was understandable.
Okay, clear enough.
Yes. So and we've learned afterwards that we have done a lot of what the visual design community would claim we made so many things the wrong way, right?
Mistakes.
Yes.
That's fine if you're like a quick doer.
Yeah, but we were not quick, but but that's but I think we had the integrity in that sense. So we did what we believed in, and we didn't really care so much because we thought this makes much more sense.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, and then I have to say that Ola, my husband, he has a very good talent to deal with data.
In which way? Like cleaning data, or?
Yeah, cleaning, of course, but also, but he's a very serious data guy, I would say.
Like a nerd.
Yeah, in a sense, right? No, but he's very good at understanding the data and being skeptical about it, and actually he's pretty knowledgeable about the data content. So I would say both me and Hans, I would say, have relied on Ola's talent to actually make sure that we always mistrust the data sources and scrutinize it very seriously. Yeah.
How do you, like, from where you collect your data? Like 1999, it was not like today, It was, I think, it's super difficult. So from which sources and how? Let's talk about the beginning, the early years.
We started, I think, well, maybe the first data sets we were working on would be data sets, let's say like this. Hans, it started by Hans wanting to give his medical students an overview about the world. So he tried to have them understand the big differences between different income groups when you look at the health outcome. So he made a scatter plot with income on one axis and life expectancy on the other, or child survival. And then he wanted the students to get an overview. And what happened was that Ola, my husband, when he was studying economic history at that point, and he was supposed to write a thesis. And he didn't really like to write because he wanted to get into the art school, Konsthögskolan.
So he has it as this.
So what he thought was that he wanted to learn how to animate, because he used to animate small cartoons when he was a kid, and he wanted to make an art film animated using Flash, which was then it was Macromedia Director, which was like an animating tool that you could use at that time. So lazy as he was, he asked his professor if it was okay that he did not write the thesis. Instead, if he took his dad's static image with economy on one axis and health on the other, and made it move over time, which would be economic history, right?
And animated in a way.
Yeah, an animated version, if that was okay. And then his teacher told him that, it's okay, nobody reads those theses anyways. So he actually did it.
Did it?
Yes, spent pretty many weeks on adding the long time series by actually 1 year at a time drawing each and every bubble.
It's like Walt Disney when they were drawing the movies.
Yes, and then, so that was sort of the starting point. And then he was moving the bubble each year. Wow. And they had a function called an onion skin. So you could see, like Disney, you could see the stepwise. And that became the trail feature that we kept.
So beautiful. Yeah, exactly.
So it started like, it was intended for him to learn how to use the technology so he could apply for the, fine arts university courses later on. But then what happened was that this got so fascinating for many people because they had never seen the data move like this.
Wow.
So it became more and more that we did it together as a project. I was also involved in the beginning during the late nights when the bubbles were to be put out in different places and so on. But I think none of us realized that we would continue doing that, right?
Yeah.
So I would say that was sort of the starting point. And then we started dragging more and more data in, and we saw it was hard to find the data sources and get the data. So then we had a few years when we spent almost all our time going to the UN and going to the World Bank together with Hans and trying to figure out how we could get their data out of their drawers and get them freely available online. Because at that point, the World Bank was selling their data on a CD-ROM. So you had to fax and send American checks to get your own copy, and you were not allowed to share it with anyone. It was an individual license. So they had just a few thousand license buyers all over the world of their
data.
Yes. And I mean, that was even a cool thing, because before that it was only paper. Now they had it on a CD at least, but it wasn't spreading. And their whole incentive model to fund the data was pretty wrong, because it was building on the old-fashioned way where you had to where you paid per copy. But since you could start to put it online, then that model doesn't really make sense. True. Because they should share the public data, because it should be a global public good. We started working closely to them and shaming them, and we bought a license and told them that now we're taking your license and we're putting it available for the world online.
They become angry?
Yes and no. We had a good contact with the statisticians.
Okay.
So they knew what we were doing. We were talking to their boss. They knew what we were doing. And they wanted to buy our interface, to own it. And we said, you can't do that, because we want the data to be free, right? So at the point they said, we're going to sue you. And we said, yes, do.
Really?
Yes, but they didn't. Because, I mean, we were that would be very bad publicity, I think.
Yeah, like for the reputation.
Like the huge World Bank is sort of smashing a pretty tiny non-profit in Sweden for sharing data that should be free.
That's true.
So
yeah.
No, they didn't. So it was. I mean, we were stubborn and nasty, but it was in a good collaboration as well. Yeah, because it was something that had to change, and they sort of knew it. And we were just nagging and
exactly. But who financed your project? Because who was your client?
I don't know if you would say client, as we have been a foundation all the time.
Okay.
But so it's rather that we have been working with grant funding. So we apply for funding from different sources, and it in the beginning. It was we got from WHO. We worked with them, and you could say it was like projects, right? So in that sense, you're right. And then it has been from SIDA, the Swedish aid agency, for a while. And then it has been from IKEA Foundation, and other sources like. Different kinds of foundations where you can apply for grants to develop your project.
Is it still the same now?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And it's if you ask if it's a working and very wonderful world we live in, I would say no. It's a bit tricky to get that to work well, but I would say we have been fortunate to actually, I mean, we have applied for grants to do the projects we dream about. Yeah. And we get the funding that might be for 2 years or 3 years, but it is to develop the project we believe in. It's not,
you don't get seldom,
it's not a consultancy in the sense that they are working on something and we go in. No. It's more that we present a project.
You create.
Yeah. Yes, that we don't have the funding for, and hopefully we can get a few sources to actually sponsor is the wrong word, because it's maybe not like sponsorship.
Finance, I think. But how much money are we talking about? Is it like big money or no?
Big money would have been wonderful. But you could say, I mean, it has been, as we are a foundation, we're not going for profit, right? No. So, but we have managed over the years to have enough resources to develop at least parts of what we wanted to develop, and to have a small staff helping us, and actually also being able to get some of the consultants we need. We have a network of consultants as well. So, I mean, looking backwards, I'm very humble and fortunate that we got the chance. Looking forward, this year, like every other year, it's like always a constant struggle trying to think how to solve the coming like 3 to 5 years. But I mean, I think the reason we managed to survive in that very open space in a way is probably because both me and Ola's main intent as young was to work as artists. And I mean, then you don't expect any funding at any time.
Exactly, you have this mindset.
Yes, so I think we have a high tolerance of risk in that sense. And as we've been working with this for so many years, I think we also have shown that we tend to continue.
Do you remember like the highest fund you got? Something like was super big and you'd be like, wow.
No, I would say, or I mean like this. I mean, if you're going to fund a whole, if you fund an organization, of course, it requires cash. In a sense, right?
Of course.
And if you compare what an organization needs to what you need as an individual, in the beginning, I would say it looked huge. So the first 2 years, I think we had a grant funding from the WHO that was of maybe, if I remember right, let's say it was like, I don't know, if it was 50,000 or 100,000 Swedish kronas.
Okay, not okay. Yeah.
And we worked on that money for like several years, day and night, 7 days a week, and we thought it was like huge. It was so much money. But then, as we become older and we have as having employees, I mean, you start realizing that a person a year has a certain cost, and that is way beyond.
It's true.
So I mean, in this. When you're early on and you start something, then I think you can do it for no money for extensive hours for a very long period of time. But as soon as you start to need other people to join, they would usually demand some kind of security, even if we can't promise something well paid or over a huge period of time. We still need to have some certainty. So I would say in that sense, I think we have managed to be a pretty normal organization over these years.
So how many people are you now?
I think we're seven. Let's say around. I have to count, but I think 7.
Around 7. With what skills or like responsibilities?
That has actually changed a bit over time. You could say historically, when we started, we only hired software developers at the time. And me and Ola was sort of doing we were inventing things, and Ola was also writing code actually.
Okay.
And then so we were sort of managing and defining what to work on, but it was mainly software development at that point in time. And then gradually over time, we have now come to a phase where we are hoping that we are more and more trying to find ways of using the materials that we have invented, and finding how we can put it at use to bigger audiences. Because now we have followers who are using our materials, which is free for teachers to use or anyone. So we have people who keeps using it.
Using them,
But I think we could work more on finding ways to make it more meaningful to them. We sort of leave them with visualizations they can use freely, but they need to find why they should use it, what it tells them, and the way in.
What's in it for them.
So now we are much more, we have actually only one developer left at this point, and we have, our staff has gradually evolved. So we hope that we are working more on the outreach and the how we can build learning experiences using them as parts.
As part, yeah.
So we're more moving towards an educational
purpose,
and hoping that we should not build as much software.
Yeah.
Not sure we can stay away from it, because it's pretty neat to
exactly
invent like visual things that are scalable.
Yeah.
But we try.
You try. And then Anna, why should we trust you? I mean, you're also you're also people. You also have like some kind of agenda. But why should we trust you? Like the way you collect data, the way you present it, and so on.
Good question. I think to start with, most of the data we use the sort of big reliable sources that most researchers would agree would be the non-controversial ones.
Yeah.
So we try. Therefore, I think a few people might be frustrated that we are not so much into the debate about the hottest topics in the moment. We are more interested in how can we get the dull, long-term data that is not as hot. How can we get that into the debate so we have something behind our more activist-driven minds to put it in a context.
Yeah.
And we are producing pretty little data ourselves. So we use the data from the World Bank, the data from the UN, and I mean, to be frank, even that is also, of course, varying in quality. So we try to stay away from the portions that where we hear there is a academic debate about the quality of the data. But I think also you should remember that people tend to be either pro or against data. But to understand what's happening in the world, we have to use the data that is the best available, but it will never be perfect. So I think it's all about finding the data that is the best one we have, and always keep in mind that it will not be perfect. But it might give us a context and a guide. And I think a lot of the data that we work with is, it's pretty easy in a sense, because it's the time series that researchers have had pretty many years refining and finalizing and, make it even better. While if you're in the front looking at the current data that is just now being produced, then it's a bit more shaky, because then you have the academic struggle as well, where you have where the researchers are still debating which is the method we should use, and they are competing on that, and that is harder, because then you don't really know where it's gonna
and how much is it trustful and so on. But does it mean like you're not really in the same? You're a bit back, or no? If you understand me, like you're taking the data, or no? It's not really, because I'm thinking like the new data, or there are debate about the method and so on. But for you, it's more like trustful to have the data with the.
I would say one of the main reasons that we focus on the historical data mainly is because we have found that people have a hard time understanding what has happened, the big pictures. And we have focused on that, where we have time series so that we can see what is happening over time and get the today into a context. So we have ended up working on those time series, and they are usually not like ultra fresh. I mean, it's not like milk. They are they are already old when we get them. But someone has to care for that data too.
I understand. I understand. But again, to the question of why should we trust what you produce? When you with the team decide about what you want to show to the world, what is behind it? How do you make your decision about, okay, now we're going to show like the poverty, children's age, and I don't know, something more?
I mean, of course, as we are also humans, you will always have selections
For
being
sure.
done.
For sure.
We try to be pretty data-driven in that too. And a lot of the things we have focused on, or the thing that get us passionate is when there is a clear trend in the data, and it's obvious that people tend to not understand it, or they are ignorant about it. And you can hear it in how they are reasoning that most likely they have no clue. Then I would say then it has been a big passion for us trying to figure out how can we get those people to at least get a glimpse of what has happened, because maybe that might influence how they are talking about the world, for instance.
Yeah.
To give an example, you hear all the time people talking about a divided world. You have the poor and the rich, and they tend to forget the 80% in the middle. And how can you plan for a future or understand today if you're totally wrong about what the world looks like or how it developed there? So I would say we try to fill those gaps in people's thinking. And what has happened when we try to do that is that we realize that our biggest hurdle is that most people think that they understand what the world looks like. So why would they learn something? Because they already know it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's when we started testing people with fact questions, so that we could see that most often in general public and expert communities, people tend to be wrong about the world, even if they are highly educated and very smart.
Still.
Yes. So we try to get them to understand that, because we hope that will give at least a small window for humility and curiosity, and realizing that maybe we make better decisions if we at least know that we usually are wrong about the world around us.
True.
So then we have started testing on a big systematic scale.
Okay.
And the test questions we have developed, we take from big organizations, from the kinds of reports that we were talking about earlier. And then we test, and if we see that people are totally wrong, we do ABC questions. And if we see that people are totally wrong about something that is central within that topic, then we continue and we retest and rephrase and continue to work on that question.
Okay.
And we go back to hopefully to at least 2, but sometimes 3 or 4 researchers in the field and ask them, do you agree with this data? Do you agree with the way we presented the question?
Okay.
Is this reliable?
Yeah.
Could you say that this is sort of correct? I mean, it's not 100% and we round numbers, but would they say it's a reasonable way of doing it? And sometimes they don't agree. And then we rephrase, or we realize it's a hot topic, or something is wrong with the data, or the quality of the data is bad, and then we drop that question.
It's a very long, complex process as well. I didn't know it's like this.
It is. So we are working pretty hard, actually, trying to make sure that we not just trust the data because it has a stamp from a big organization,
but double check.
We also double check with external researchers to see, would you use this number? And why would you trust it? Or why wouldn't you?
Wow.
Yeah. So we have an extensive backlog of research comments on each and every question.
Yeah.
And that's why actually we have asked around 10,000 unique fact questions in different topics. But we haven't published as many because it's a pretty slow process to actually fact check them and make sure that we are not making a mistake.
I understand.
And the research community, at least a handful of researchers would agree that this is a reasonable way of phrasing their expertise.
And I know it's very tough to get an okay or green light from a researcher. Like, it's not that easy.
Yes, and then I would say from a researcher is easier, I guess, than from Ola, my husband. So most of the material actually gets stopped on the way, actually.
But why Ola? What is his?
I think it's because it's a very, as we are talking about the importance of being fact-based, it's very embarrassing if we are wrong.
That's
true. We can't be that.
That's true.
So therefore, we we have an extensive process. I mean, of course, we're humans. We can be wrong as well sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, we can't avoid that, but we could at least try to avoid it as much as possible. So it's a lot of information that gets stopped.
Yeah.
That is actually cleared throughout the big organizations as reliable data, and we are still not using it.
Yeah. But why there is so much misconception? Like, what are the reasons that people think like this with all the reports, data around us, and so on?
So I think it might be different reasons for the expert community in the topic and for the general public. Yeah. So if we start with the general public, I think we learn in school snippets about the world around us. And it's very, sitting here in Sweden, I would say the things we learn is very Sweden-centric. So it's quite a lot about Sweden.
Yeah.
And then we get a few bits and pieces from other parts of the world, but it's not really a representative to where people actually live, or,
Yeah.
So it's a skewed world we get to start with in our brains. And then we stop learning about the world, but I think we keep remember what we learned at school, and the world changes, which makes what we learned at school not as relevant
it's like
anymore.
Outdated.
Yes, it gets outdated. So that, I think, is one thing. And then what we get, the information we get in about what's happening in the world right now will be what we hear from friends and in news and so forth. And usually what we hear then would be what is horrific and scary and dangerous, which we, of course, should hear about. But we seldom hear about the slow, positive trends that are happening at the same time in many places. So it's like where we live, we get all the details about every single, if it's a cute dog or a senior dance in the neighborhood, we know about it.
Yeah.
But if it's something that is from another continent, then we will only hear about it if it's dangerous and scary.
Exactly.
So I think it creates a very pessimistic worldview where of course, a lot of things are problematic and going bad.
Yeah.
But looking at the data for the human development, we can see a lot has actually happened the past 100 and 200 years. Amazing positive change.
Yeah.
Where kids start to go to school and they are not dying as much as they used to, and fewer die from natural disasters. And we have a lot of these very positive things that are happening, but we hear only about the incidents when it's going bad. So that, I think, for the general public. When it comes to the expert community, sometimes they are even more wrong about their own topic than the general public, which is pretty interesting, right?
But wait, tell me, like, when you say expert, what do you mean? Like people working with these topics, or? Okay.
So, if we...
Let's take maybe architecture or food.
Yeah, let's take food. So if you would talk to an audience that are totally into food questions, there is a likeliness that they will be even more pessimistic about what's happening in their field. And the reason for that, we believe, would be that the reason you started working there is because you care so much.
Yeah.
So you're so interested, so you get even more than the general public. You hear every single problem in the area, and you think about those problems all the time. So I think they might grow in your head. The importance of your specific interest will grow. So even if you're super passionate about a certain kind of crop, maybe for food, then you might be perfectly right about the exact trend for that crop, because because it's your expertise.
Yeah.
But the whole field, what's happening with crops overall, or what's happening to food provision for humankind, then it's likely that you will be more negative than others, because you know about a lot of more problems than the general public knows.
Yeah.
And it seems like our brains are pretty bad at remembering positive, slow trends, because it's boring, I guess. So
there's not so much drama and action.
No, exactly. We're driven by an interest of dramatic stories.
Yeah.
So I think even if we get the data correct, paying attention and
But
remembering
still,
it,
yeah.
why would we? Because our brain, I think, sorted out as boring,
Right.
and then you get some juicy piece, and then you will remember that, even though it might not be a good guide for understanding the topic. But our brains are sorting
like
for us. I would guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is very crazy that the expert might be more wrong than the general public.
Isn't it interesting?
Yeah.
And getting, and I mean, yeah, if you start to think about it almost philosophically, it's very interesting. What are the consequences then if most of us are wrong about the world we live in? And the experts are also wrong about the world they live in, and sometimes even more wrong.
Well,
I mean, that's a very,
very
interesting thought,
right? The end is near.
No, but I think it's interesting. So,
yeah, right.
So it's and it's not. I don't think this is something new. Like like now this has happened. I think this is how our thinking is wired, and I think when we theoretically think about knowledge, we tend to think that we are very good at sorting information and using information and finding information and keeping it in our brains. But I think in reality, we are much more driven by interests and storytelling.
Yeah.
And we get deluded even if we have, the capacity of understanding and we are smart.
Yeah.
Still, it's a risk that we get deluded.
Are there some like specific topics that people have like so big misconception about this?
From the testing we have done, I would say that
maybe tell me the story. How do you change this? Like, how do you change the misconceptions that we have?
How we would change it?
Yeah, how do you change it? Because you have the world viewer upgrader.
Yeah, I mean, I would say we are in a constant struggle trying to figure out how we can change it. I'm not sure that we manage as much as we should, but I think number one must be to make people aware that they are actually wrong. Because if you think you're right, there is no reason to change or upgrade your information.
No.
Because you think you're already set and you have limited interest and you have limited time. So why would you spend it on something you already know?
True.
Waste of time. So the starting point must be to have people realize that what if you, just like the rest of us, are wrong about the world around you? Then maybe it might be worth something for you and your colleagues to double check information before making decisions. And maybe, hopefully, we can gradually foster a better way of using data. But I would say I'm pretty humble. So I think what we have done so far is that we have managed to pinpoint a problem that no one really talks about, because I think maybe that's the strength of being an independent foundation, because everyone else have a certain agenda, what they need to communicate, and they don't have time for this.
True.
Because this is sort of just destroying the foundation they stand on.
That's true. That's true.
In a sense.
Yeah.
And we're asking a different kind of questions. So I think, in that sense, I think we might be needed to pinpoint that maybe the whole foundation is wrong. Okay, I mean, not the Gapminder foundation, but sort of like the ground we're standing on.
Yes.
But to really, really change it, I think that is actually a bigger process. And that cannot be something we do at Gapminder alone, because that would be ridiculous to think. But we can be part, or what we hope to be is starting a movement, maybe a slow change where we can see that more and more people realize and remember that it might be worth to check data. When we started Gapminder, then the data was not available freely online. So then we had that problem. Now the data is available freely online, but people don't really use it that much. So now it's a question, how do we make sure that people are starting to get sound methods of actually using data in their work. And I think it's very common that we look for the data that is on the exact topic we're working on, but we forget to look at the big picture and the context. So that is something I think will have to evolve into education. We have to teach young people how to be data literate and use data in their decision making. It might be more important than math skills to actually understand how you should use the data you have around you to make wise decisions. And I think that cannot be something that we do only, but we can at least continue to pinpoint that process might be needed, and we can continue to make small efforts trying to show ways we think could be reasonable. I mean, so the good thing being a small foundation is that we can experiment and we can point at things we think should be done at a bigger scale.
Exactly.
But we don't have the muscles to really change things in that sense.
I understand.
Because I think this is like it has to be changed over a generation, maybe. I mean, I don't think it's a quick thing.
Big systems involved in this. It's not like you cannot change it by night.
I think that would be naive, but I think it's worth to speed up the process by continue to comment and make people aware that remember now that most likely you're wrong. And hopefully we can get the ball rolling a little bit faster. But it's a slow process.
It is. And tell me about like the story of like monkey being smarter than us. Like how because I listen to you have a very inspiring presentations, and always like it's fun to listen to you, because especially the moment you tell, but monkeys are smarter than us human. So what is behind this?
Monkey? I mean, so the whole monkey thing, I mean, it's just a way of talking about random, right? Because in our questions, all the questions are ABC questions.
You send the question to ask people questions.
Yes. We ask fact questions. If we lecture, we ask the audience, or if we for our own internal research, we send out via polling institutes to the general public. And all our questions follow the same pattern. So they are a question and then an ABC alternative.
Three alternatives.
Three alternatives. And what we say then is that when humans pick among these ABC questions on each and every question, usually they get a worse score than the monkey would. And that might sound strange. But the reasoning here is if you present a monkey with the same question, the monkey cannot read and the monkey cannot make a wise decision, right? No. Because it will pick A, B, or C.
Like random.
Yeah, random. It will pick one of them, right? But it seems like humans systematically pick in a similar way. And we have tested in 39 countries, I think, or some questions even more, right? But 39 countries. And what we see is that this pattern is pretty much the same in many places.
Wow.
And humans systematically pick alternatives that are, when it comes to human development, that makes they are more pessimistic about human development than what has actually happened.
Okay.
While the monkey would be ignorant about that because it doesn't really care, right?
True.
Because it doesn't know what it picks.
Yeah.
So that is sort of the comparison. So what we see is that, in that sense, we usually talk about humans performing worse than a chimp on our tests. Wow. But the good news is that those humans can easily learn. The chimp couldn't.
They will stay like this.
So we are smarter.
Yeah.
But we perform worse. And we need to be aware of that. And the good news is that it's pretty easy to upgrade our knowledge.
We can learn.
I mean, it's a quick thing. This is not rocket science information that we present, right? So, I mean, for a human, that's a pretty easy process.
Yeah.
So what we have developed there is a tool online where people can go and test themselves on different topics so that they can continue to upgrade.
Yeah.
It's the whole idea. But we're early on and we're testing the concepts. But that is so that our intention is to share the insights that we have gotten to so everyone else can use them too.
So you send the questions to the general public, right? Just to see how much misconception about different topics.
Yeah, but yes, one question at a time, right?
So can you tell us like an example of a question?
Yes, I'm just thinking if I remember. Can I double check?
Of course, just to pick like a random question.
Yes. So then I actually go here because just so I don't rephrase so it becomes like totally ridiculous.
Yeah.
So then I just go here. So it could be, no, then I don't have any internet because I'm in flight mode.
Okay.
No, but it could be a question about what happened to, how many people live in, how big percent of the world population live in low-income countries today.
Okay. Yeah.
And then you can get
options.
3 different options with different percentages. And they could be, in that question, I think then we first phrase how many used to live back in, and then we give a time unit earlier on. So you can see this is what it used to be.
Yeah.
And then now do you think, so basically the A, B, and C, has it increased a little, has it increased a lot, or has it decreased? So you can get a sense without really knowing, so that we can see how you think, what is the direction we're going?
Exactly.
Is it like becoming worse or better or stay the same, right? So very many of our alternatives, A, B, and C, are getting better, stay the same, or getting worse.
Or worse.
That is a pretty common one.
Yeah.
So that we can see how the thinking is going. Actually, when we start testing the question first, we give many more alternatives. So we can see, we first do some testing so we can see where the questions end up, or where people are asking, so that we can make the spread of the ABCs more relevant.
Okay,
so
cool.
It's a whole...
like a methodology behind it. Yeah.
Yes. So
is there are there specific topics that we really have no idea about how is it going or in which direction? You have some in mind.
I mean, overall, you could say everything that goes for human development, time trends. It could be like how many percent has access to safe water today, how many kids go to school, vaccines, how many children survive, how many women has a position in parliament. All those things where we know we live in an unequal world with a lot of inequality. We tend to overestimate the amount of people who lacks access to sort of basic services. So that is one thing. And we haven't really realized that things are slowly getting better in many ways. That's not to say that it's getting better for all people, or that it's getting better fast or fast enough. But still, you have a lot of positive trends that people are not aware of. And then it seems like people are also overestimating new technology and future solutions solar power and all these everything that is smart and new and fancy and AI or very cool and hype. Those areas people tend to overestimate how much is in use, how big portion of all electricity is some kind of modern green, those kinds of questions. And I think that is because we're talking so much about the alternatives that we need to change to. So in people's minds, it sort of grows. So we think we have come further than we actually have in many cases.
So reality is something else. We are not like that far.
So I would say that is in that sense, that is an opposite trend.
Yeah.
So people overestimate how many people in the world have access to, high tech technology, but they underestimate how many have access to, very basic schooling, for instance. So I would say everything hip and cool and high tech and modern and new and future, we seem to overestimate how far along we have implemented the use of it.
Yeah.
And everything that is like very basic, dull, boring, I don't know, sanitation or
exactly.
That we underestimate how far along.
A lot of media here. I see like a brainwashing in different ways.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think we need to follow the media. We need to see what's happening around us. I think that is important. But I think we need to compensate
also
the way our brains are absorbing this information by actually constantly reminding us that we have a silly, pretty skewed way of understanding and using that information.
Yeah.
So I think I can get frustrated sometimes when I hear people talk about, fake news and the media is bad and the news try to distort and so on. I mean, news, just as I said about data earlier, that the data we have to understand the trends in the world, it's not perfect. The news can never be perfect either, because they are about to present something that is happening in the moment. Pretty hard to get a 100% accurate picture, and they try. And they have limited funding, and you have all these different problems. So I think we shouldn't spend so much time shooting down what they are doing, saying they are trying to fool us or brainwash us or so. I think they are trying, most of them,
trying their best to deliver a message.
To deliver messages in a very hard environment. I think we should maybe take our part of the responsibility, saying even when they are doing their best, even when they are communicating information to us that it is relevant, which quite a lot of it is, it seems like we are still interpreting it in a way that skews it, at least over time, in our brains. And maybe we can do some small steps on our side to actually make sure that when we receive the information that we compensate for,
like reading more or checking more facts and different sources.
I think so. And I think we should, but we need to be kind to ourselves and figuring out ways of doing that is not as time consuming, because as soon as we try to go to add too much in that
then we just
area,
leave it.
Then people will not do it at all.
True.
So we have to figure out what is the least amount of fact-based worldview we need to make decent decisions.
True.
And we have to think that's maybe good enough.
Yeah. So blaming the media is not, it's not an excuse that, but it's education, it's media, they brainwash us. We should also be part of this, and be an active part and make a decision and do our homework as well, not only just waiting for one source.
I think
that's it.
I think so. I mean, that's the boring message, that it seems like we have to do something as well. So, no, but I think you should never trust anyone 100%, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Because even if that person have the most perfect intentions, I mean, that person can be wrong as well. So, I mean, we have to find ways of double checking information before making decisions that might depend on that information.
Yeah. So, what do you think now with the Chat GPT? That I think you have an interesting point of view.
I'm not sure if I have an interesting point of view. Usually, I think I have to say that people, quite often I have thought that people are overestimating how AI will take over and so forth.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think it's a little bit too much. I mean, it's super cool. A lot of the new technology can actually help us in quite good ways.
Do a lot of the job.
Yeah, and it's very interesting and very smart if we find ways of doing that right. But I'm not so much driven by fear, thinking that it will take over completely and so forth. But I do have to say I tried the
the
chat, and I was actually surprisingly impressed.
Was in a good way, or?
Yes.
Oh wow. What did you write?
I started by writing a few questions. That was I don't remember exactly what I asked, but first I asked something more work-wise to see what happened, right? And then I got a response that at least on the surface looked pretty relevant.
Fine, yeah.
So immediately I started writing more and more, longer and more complicated and more ridiculous questions and things and statements to see, to find out where is the limitations.
Exactly, yeah.
And I ran into them pretty quickly, and I started to get responses like, I can't answer that, and I have no idea, and so forth.
Yeah.
But I was actually pretty amazed that it could give so much back. So I have to admit that it sort of changed a little bit my thinking, because we have been saying all the time when it comes to the work in Gapminder, you have to go and find the data. You have to find the sources. You have to do this and this and
more
this.
More manual, old school way of doing it.
Yes. And most likely that will still be true in a sense. But I mean, imagine if we train them to actually have, if they have a decent, if they have sort of whitelisted sources that we can rely on
then
for a lot of answers that are relevant, then maybe we can start using them as more active partners when we are making decisions, so they can see, they can collect information from us maybe, and sort of realize, I would say the key point would be not what you are asking, because we worked at Google for a while trying to implement the searches of statistics. And what I gradually started realizing was that when you ask a question, I mean, you will ask something that you're already
set the frame, you know.
You already framed the question. But what if the question is the wrong question? I mean, you ask a question, you get the response on your question, and then you feel satisfied. Now I know what it's all about. But what if the question was the wrong one?
Then your
answer. So maybe, I mean, if we think long term, maybe we can find a way where this new AI can hear the relevant bits of information that we are missing to ask
in the question
somehow.
Wow.
I mean, but that would be like, but what if we could do that? Because we seem to be pretty bad at rethinking on that level. But maybe we could actually extend our thinking in a way to actually see the questions that should have been asked.
So you want to take AI one step back, like to help us with the question, or
I have no idea what I want to do with the AI, but I
understand your point.
I see that. I mean, when the limitation is how we are phrasing our questions, maybe we could find ways of getting help to phrase more relevant questions, which in itself is would be a quality learning. I mean, maybe that would improve the way we are thinking in a sense.
Also,
But overall, so the fast question or the fast answer about AI would be from me that I think very often we overestimate what it could do and should do. Because still we have an analytical power that they, at least at this point, I think they are lacking it.
Exactly.
They can mimic and they can repeat and they can find information, but to analyze, you would need something different. But as we have found, when people are wrong about the world, that maybe we still can find ways of complementing. I'm not sure.
I think this is the beginning, and maybe in the future Because now you can easily see, not easy maybe, you can see the text if it's generated from a machine or from a person.
Yeah.
You can clearly see. But I think in the future, maybe they will learn how to talk like people, like us people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, also when we see this different kinds of AI generated pictures.
Exactly. Yeah.
That is also pretty interesting. I saw a few days back, I don't remember where I saw it, but, party images of non-existing people having a, like a dorm party.
Yeah.
And it's pretty interesting because they seem pretty accurate. And it's people doing things in the moment.
Yeah,
so, I mean, it is interesting. But I think very often when we have a new technology coming, people are getting afraid and they think now everything will collapse and you can start cheating with using these fake people or these fake statements. But I mean, you have always been able to do things with whatever technology you had.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're just about to write your messages into stone, you can still write a fake message. I mean, and who would know?
So it doesn't matter what tool you have. Yeah.
I mean, you can do it faster now, but it's still a matter of using the available technology. And there will always be ways people can misuse it.
Because in some countries now, the education department or ministry start to looking at how can they like block AI from school, or how can they identify this is AI, because many start to talk about, okay, students can get their answers or projects from the chat.
Yeah.
So my question here to you, because now you're also working with data, now we have another easy source of data. So what is your reflection about this? Is there going to be even more misconception?
I don't know. I mean, it seems like humans are not very good at finding the right information and using it. I mean, maybe. I have no idea. I mean, of course, it will change how you, as an educational institution, how you need to check that your students is actually doing what they are supposed to, that they are doing the thinking, that they are not just copying from somewhere else. I mean, that will most likely affect how they have to build the control systems within the system. But I don't think it will. I mean, it will not. I don't think it will change something fundamentally.
Okay, yeah.
But you might need to find ways of compensating for that. But I mean, it might be a way for people to find reliable information as well. And now today, you also have information available from a huge amount of sources. And some of them are crappy and some of them are not.
Yeah.
And that remains. And the AI might find the good one sometimes and the bad one sometimes, but it's a similar process.
Yeah.
Right?
Still, we cannot trust.
So we still need to use our own brain to sort the same problem as always. Is this relevant or not? Is it correct or not? That remains.
Yeah.
So,
do you use AI now in Gapminder, like in your process, or no?
Not that much. I would say we actually had a couple of guys at our work trying to ask the fact questions to AI, and see how how the AI would respond.
Better than monkeys? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
It was actually better. Not the first test, but then after some rephrasing, it seemed like. So it was. I haven't really seen the results. I just heard the rumors at work, right? But it's pretty interesting to see how they would respond. But I would say for most of the work we are doing, I mean, we're using old-fashioned technology, old-fashioned data tables, and we are building small pieces of infrastructure to make sure that the data continues to update as it updates at the data sources. And we do some minor things, but I would say it's most of what we do is low-tech. But it's pretty interesting that the tool Dollar Street that we have developed, which is a huge image bank of home documentations from all over the world on different income levels.
Okay.
Where we, in each and every home, we document the same items. So we look at what does a toilet look like at different incomes in different parts of the world and so forth.
Yeah, you showed that.
Yeah.
And
it's interesting because we developed that as a complement to the other kinds of visualizations we had, because we felt that people are lacking an idea about everyday life for normal people all over the world on different income levels. Because what we see in news is always when everyday life gets ruined for some reason.
Yeah.
But what is
the normal?
A daily meal or a shower or a toilet or a toothbrush or whatever item? What does it look like at different income levels? And so we did it as an educational tool, but surprisingly, we have had different people approach us from high-tech companies who wanted to use it for their AI to learn to understand what a toilet can look like.
Wow.
So
this is good.
Yes, our project has been used to try to teach AI to understand better than that. For instance, a toilet doesn't have to be a water closet, which is white and where you can flush, and
that's true.
You have a lot of different looks.
Yeah.
So that I think was unexpected, but pretty fun. Yeah.
I imagine you became so happy, right?
Yeah, pretty cool. But I mean, I wasn't very surprised because the result they got back after trying it out on the AI was like the AI couldn't recognize toilets on lower incomes. I mean, of course it couldn't because it was trained by looking at the same.
Just show them one type of toilet, maybe the European one.
Yeah, and it's the same if you Google. If we take toilet as an example, if you write toilet in the search field, you will find the same kind, which usually is a very luxurious, a typical toilet as you would see it here, but a luxurious version of it.
Yeah.
While in reality, if you look at what humankind has, you would see a huge variety where you have 1 billion people still without the toilet at all.
At all.
Just going out using the bush or a field or,
Yeah, nature.
Yeah, nature. Yeah. So I mean, I think that is pretty interesting. How could they, because they were surprised that the AI couldn't recognize all these other, we knew that before AI checked it because it was so obvious. How would it be able to recognize it?
Exactly. And Anna, what do you think about now on different social media, the algorithm shows you what you're interested in only. Same thing with the Google, like when you Google, you get things related to your location and so on. What is your reflection about this? Like being in this bubble?
I would say I'm a little bit double. Of course, on one hand, it's very convenient that you are actually being served things that you are more likely to enjoy than being served whatever
random
other people would have liked.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I'm pretty impressed that it's possible.
Okay.
So I mean, on one hand, I'm pretty positive.
Yeah.
I mean, look back when, I don't know, go back 100 years. Pretty hard to get information you're interested in coming to you.
You need to do a lot of work.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I mean, overall, I think it's pretty impressive. But it can also be a bit frustrating because if you're stuck in your own bubble without really thinking about a bubble, because you think you get a world. Yeah, you get the world. Of course, you might become a little bit deluded by that, and it's pretty hard to step out of that.
Yeah.
And compensate by doing other things. Then you have to do it so you really have to do it intentionally and sort of add things to your bubble
so
to fake sort of fake interests and friends to get a variety to compensate.
Yeah.
And in one sense, I think it's important to continue to talk to people that are outside of your bubble. And to keep family and friends, even if they are not sharing your ideas 100%. And especially the vivid ones who are very outspoken. They might help you to make your bubble a little bit more sane because you at least get some glimpses of other bubbles going on. I don't know.
Yeah.
So overall, I mean, it is a problem. But I mean, if we go back 100 years ago, people could not travel. They would not get any news reports from outside the village they were living in.
No.
They couldn't go. They didn't have access to libraries. Only a few people could read and write. You had no television. You had no radio. I mean, you have a lot of things that you couldn't do.
Exactly.
So I think sometimes it's a little bit unfair, the shame the new technology gets, because compared to what you could get before, it was nothing, basically nothing.
No, that's true. That's true.
And now you can get, if something happens in another part of the world, you can get visual insights
in
a few seconds from that place. And I think it gets harder and harder to be, if you're a dictator. I mean, even if you try to control your country strictly,
there are so many other ways.
There are so many ways things can start to trickle out. So it's much harder to control.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool thing.
I think so. The positive side. Yeah. It's all the same thing with the media, what I mentioned before.
I think it's easy to make them scapegoats.
Yeah.
But I think we should also remember to celebrate that people are actually working hard
to deliver something
something to me that I get it within seconds.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
It would be stupid of me to blame them for not giving me the complete picture and making sure it was 100% accurate when it's from the split moment when something is happening. I think that is almost rude.
It's a good way of thinking. No, I understand you, because they are putting so much energy. Doesn't matter, or we put away what agenda they want to push for, but they put so much energy and resources to try to show us an image of what's happening in a completely other part of the planet.
Yes, I think, and I think we should celebrate that is happening, and that people are actually collecting data from all these places, so we can get at least a decent idea about what's going on. I think that's super important to be positive, because there are so many people working tirelessly in pretty hard conditions to make sure that we get all this information available. And I think we should continue, of course, to demand better information. We should be
always.
We should be skeptical, and we should work for transparency and make sure that the data is free. A lot of things that that has to come with it.
Yeah.
But I think we should be careful to be too skeptical about the intent.
Yeah.
But we need to we cannot rely on the news only, and we cannot rely on our social media bubbles only. We need to compensate by actually looking at the data, and the data exists.
Also.
So we get
image covering different parts of the real image.
Yeah.
What social media platforms do you use?
I would say I'm not using that many, actually.
Okay.
I know I should, but I don't. So Be Real and Facebook at the moment.
You do Be Real?
I like Be Real.
You like it?
Yeah. Or hate like. It's like a mixed feeling.
It's the one you need to make a picture at the moment.
Yes, I really like that one.
Yeah.
But then, and Facebook, I mean, that was the first one I started with, and I'm still there.
Yeah.
And I use it somewhat. Periodically, I go to Twitter, but not as much. Right now, I've been for a while in a phase where I have to say I realized that I enjoy life almost more when I'm not as much
on social media.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's not the strict. I'm not against. I'm not.
I understand you.
It's not a statement, but I realize if I can stay away from it, I think life is a little bit better.
Yeah.
And then I have Snap.
Snapchat. Yeah.
But my kids got so irritated when I got it. So And TikTok, they were also like very against. So
against you having a profile there.
Yeah, so I sort of decided actually that I shouldn't be there because only just they knowing that I'm there makes them feel like I'm there, like
to watch
it's like
them.
a parental control thing. So I actually
step out.
Yeah, so I keep with the old-fashioned Instagram. I'm also on, but I'm not using them that much.
Yeah.
I'm pretty passive.
How do you collect your data, like as a person, from TV, from?
I would say a combination, maybe from TV, documentaries, news, from reading, books now and then, and from actually quite a lot from actually checking facts from the bigger organizations, going there and just glancing at the data, scrolling, yes.
Yeah.
Or actually quite often actually going to our own website, controlling. So that's, I would say that is, I guess, how I stay up to date.
Yeah.
I should probably upgrade much more as well.
I think
but I'm also just human, you know.
You're just normal like us now.
I am. I have always been.
Yeah. No, I thought you're going to tell me like, no, I do this, then I do this, then I have this tool.
No, and also I think I piggyback on Ola quite a lot because he's a much more extensive reader and much more extensive data guy.
Yeah.
And he starts talking quite a lot about the data that he walks around thinking about for real. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say Ola is probably my main source for So as long as he's not intentionally deluding me, I think I'm fine, you know. No, I'm kidding. But
shout out to him.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm kidding. Yeah.
So we have, as I told you before we start this conversation, we have listeners from 140 countries. And mostly working with city development, like urban planners, architects, real estate developers, and so on. So what should we stop doing when we develop a city?
Now I'm talking just from, this might sound blunt, maybe, or, you know, naive. But I think very often, as soon as we start talking about projects for the future, I think it's very often very easy that we start to dream big about super cool, high-tech, modern solutions. And we very often forget about the majority of humanity who would need decent, pretty basic services and apartments. And that is not as fancy, because I think everything that goes for planning the future, then you get visionaries who dream big about cool things like new technologies, smart houses,
smart streets,
and
cars.
Yeah, but I think what we actually need to do is make room for the big cities where we have a lot of people who will move in. How will we make sure that we get the basic services in place? So we have housing there is decent enough, not cool, not fancy, just reasonable, safe, and how we get sanitation and water and schooling and health facilities with basic care, not the fancy one. How we get all that to come together to a reasonable price, and how we get anyone to fund that. Because I think that is always the problem, that the funding will go to the cool solutions for the ones who can pay and who want to enjoy the new high-tech solutions. And then we tend to always forget the ones who need services and help and that we need to bring with us when we continue to expand. So I would say, and in countries like Nigeria, where we will have a huge population coming, like this massive new populations, how do we make sure that we are focusing on helping them, ensuring and now building the infrastructure that they need to have in place so that they can take care of all these people. Because if we don't give the poorest some decent living conditions, then not only is it inhumane and I think not decent, I mean, but it's also, I would say, dangerous because you have a lot of frustrated poor people who have nothing to lose on actually trying to make life better because they are in a very bad position. So I think for stability and world peace and a future we can enjoy, I think it's important to make sure that we try to bring those people with us. And that doesn't mean that we need to build like huge, super cool smart homes for everyone, but at least, a roof, some walls, some sanitation that works would be a good starting point. So that I would say, looking at where people will be in the future and making sure that we put our efforts on helping them.
Exactly, like leaving no one behind.
Yeah.
Instead of only focusing on only one group of people with money, wealthy, healthy, and forgetting about the others. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, instead of dreaming about moving humanity to space, maybe we should dream of getting the poorest to actually get at least the basics in place. It doesn't mean we have to maybe bring them all the way to like luxurious lifestyles, but we have to make sure that they are at least
the fundamental
the fundamentals are in place and that their kids are not dying.
It's interesting though, the aspect now of like going to the moon, having a city there as well. And if we look back to planet Earth, we have so many people like living in the nature without a roof, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I
think. But does it mean that we should stop dreaming, or should we dream in another way?
I think we should continue to dream. I think that is the way forward. Of course, we should dream, but I think there is a risk nowadays when we have a very few people with a huge amount of money, like super rich, and when they dream only about futuristic things, I can be a little bit frustrated because they have really the opportunities to do something really good now. So, yeah, but
so what I take from you is that when still like as a planners or working with city developments, it's good that we have this big visions. At the same time, we shouldn't leave people behind us and be blind and don't look at them and don't think about them at all.
No, and I think that is the problem for the poorest because we know, I mean, humanity knows how we can help them because it's not rocket science. It's very basic stuff.
Very, very basic.
It's basic infrastructure. It's pretty cheap to develop, and it's not very hard, not very time consuming, not very expensive compared to a lot of other things.
Yeah.
But I think as people don't understand that human development has increased so much over time, I think they are overly pessimistic about our chances of getting people out of poverty because it sounds unrealistic because they believe a bigger portion of humanity is actually living under much worse conditions than they are.
Yeah.
So I think if they knew that human development has actually improved pretty good over time, and it's the extreme poverty of humanity, it's actually very few people, or no, it's actually a lot of people still left in extreme poverty, but it's a very small portion of the population as a whole.
Yeah.
And as we know how to solve it, and it's not very expensive, why aren't we doing it?
Exactly.
And I think part of it is because it's more fascinating to think about visionary things about the future, and we all love new cool apps and hope that they would solve things. But these problems can be solved without any new technology, any invention, because
that's true.
We don't need to innovate anything because we know what needs to be done.
Yeah,
but it's not sexy. So our brains tend to move to something new and sexy.
And that's very sad, actually. I remember I was at UNICEF Sweden event last week, and they mentioned that, like, I think it was €10 or I think €10 that could be so much food for a child, and it's so crazy. It's really crazy, like how little money can give so much back.
Especially if you are in an organization that is huge, so that you can scale and build and get things in huge volumes.
Yeah.
And I think that is also a thing that when we want to help, we want to know, we want to give ourselves. We want to hold the thing we give, and preferably not money. We want to give a thing to a human being and see when they take it. But that is a very expensive way of distributing and helping people.
Yeah.
Maybe quite often it's more effective if we have like bigger organization or tax funded investments where we do it at scale and help people building infrastructure for the future, rather than getting, a pair of shoes in the wrong size.
True.
From someone, even if it's a kind gift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. So what skills should we learn as a planners working with cities? Maybe develop, or maybe something we have and we should develop, or something completely new that we should learn.
I think if we think about the poor people on Earth, I think what you need to do as planners for the future is to rely on what you already know, and to and maybe find ways of being proud of doing low-cost solutions for many.
Okay.
Even if they might not be as braggable in glossy magazines and might not take you as high up in the career, on the career ladder, because I guess it's easier to get traction and cool jobs if you do
something completely new and flashy.
And then you
out
can,
of the box.
Exactly, which is, of course, also fun and should be done. But I would say if more people could stand up and do the low-tech solutions that the world needs.
Low-tech.
Yeah.
It's like a kind of doesn't exist, always should be high-tech, green, green stuff.
Yeah.
And smart.
Yeah, and for the absolute poorest, they don't even have to use as green technology as we do, because they use so little technology. They use so little energy.
Yeah.
So even if they would use a dirty energy, it's such a minor proportion compared to what we use here. So I think we have all these solutions that we could maybe even survive with low tech, low cost, even non-fancy, non-modern solutions for the poorest, so that they can start working on not having to spend all the time surviving, but actually can start expanding and getting a decent life. And as soon as they do, then we can work on sort of improving and making it greener and better. But I think that's probably the right end to start, because it's quite often a forgotten group.
That's true. That's true. And how can we get help of Gapminder? What can we do there? Check there, use the tool?
I think what we can do is hopefully give some kind of an overview here and there on the questions you haven't really asked. Looking at getting the bigger picture, either by using our tools to see the context of the country or of the income group or whatever you are working on. That is one thing you can do, or you could actually go and look at you can look at the Dollar Street project, where we have actually visited households all over the world, and maybe get some inspiration, because I hear too often that people confuse income standards with culture. like it's their culture. That's how they want to live. But if you look at the income levels, you can see that it seems like everyone on this income level seem to have the same type of solution for a toilet or cooking, or maybe it's not culture. Maybe it's just that they are trying to, that they are doing the best they can with the resources they have. And universally, there are a few standard solutions that you will do. Okay. And it's a standard steps. When you get more money, what will be the next thing you upgrade in your home? So maybe maybe getting the overview of what life is like might also help. So when you think about doing the non-fancy, low-cost solutions for the poorest, you can see that it's actually pretty simple solutions that are needed. Yeah.
Very interesting. So before we move to the next part or the last part of this episode, so what are the tools that we can find in the homepage?
Well, I would say we have three main categories of tools. Yeah. One is that you can explore the data from big organizations like UN and World Bank, and you can see the time series and trends and compare countries and so forth. Yeah. That is one thing.
This is like the
Gapminder tools, the classics. Yeah. And then you have the photos of homes, which is the Dollar Street, where you can explore living conditions for normal people all over the world on different income levels.
Why you name it? What do you name it? In Dollar
Street.
Why this name?
Just because it's an income axis fairly, because we think about the world as a street where the poorest live to the left and the richest to the right, and the houses are ordered by income, which is like street numbers.
Interesting.
So it's like a mental concept.
Wow.
Wow. So we call it Dollar Street. So you can go there and see that, or you can go to the Worldview Upgrader, where you can actually test yourself and see if you're totally wrong about the world or not. Maybe you're not, and then you're very unique, and then you should celebrate. Or if you're pretty bad, get bad results, you shouldn't think that you're stupid and very unusual. That is the common pattern we see. And then you should just, I think, breathe in, breathe out, think I'm a classic human, so maybe I need to compensate for this somehow when I make decisions in life.
I love the test. I did all of them.
You did?
Yeah, I did all of them, but I was not like the smart one.
No. I mean, no one is.
I don't remember, like it was like 80 or something like this, or no, I'm wrong about like how many people that get same result, like below the monkey or something like this. Do you have a number? Like no, it was like some specific questions. When I answered wrong, they told me, "Oh, you're not alone," because like 80% of people we asked
exactly. So I would
gave
say
the same wrong answer.
Yeah. So
but it is specific question to be clear now.
So on every question you have a specific number, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I would say that, and we don't publish questions where people are usually right. Because we don't think that is
people know.
It's no real point in that, right? So all of the questions are questions that we think are of importance and that people are usually getting wrong. So you will find questions where more than 50% get this question wrong. Yeah. We know that.
Yeah.
So let's see how you're doing.
Yeah.
And some of them are like questions where people like 85 or 90% are actually usually wrong.
Yeah.
So we try to work with those numbers.
But it's really great tool. I will put the link. You can get certification, and it's very, very good.
Yeah. So that is probably what should be mentioned. So you can try the questions. Yeah. And then when you try them, you will get a score for like this quiz. You will get maybe 4 out of might have been 9 questions, and you scored correct on 3 of them. Then you can try yourself a few times and relearn, and finally hopefully learn. Then we have the certificate test, which is a time limited test where you get the same questions as you have been practicing, but you need to answer all of them correct in a row. And you have a time limit on each question. And if you answer all of them correct in a row, then you actually get a certificate that you can print and sort of compensate for the bad feeling you got in the beginning, getting bad scores.
Yeah, I have 11 certificates from the SDGs. I did all of them.
Wow.
Of course, I failed in every one of them, but I did wrong, and then I went back, and then I studied this question. Then I did the final quiz, and I got it, and I downloaded it. I put it on my LinkedIn. It's super cool to have it also. Like it's a very beautiful. The layout is amazing. Like you made it so much. You put so much of gamification, so it's even cool to do it. It's not like the super boring questionnaire.
I'm glad to hear.
No,
that.
really, you should be. No, I was very surprised because like when it comes to the big questions, it's very boring layout and complicated. It's like the 300 pages of report.
Yeah.
But here it was like a game. I get stars. I get diploma. It's super fun.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear. Yeah, we try to find a balance. I mean, it is very serious content.
It is.
But we have to find a way where you can survive going through it.
Yeah.
And I guess you can also see on all the phrasing of the questions, we try to make the questions short.
Very
and
short.
We try to use everyday language, not being too theoretical.
Yeah.
So we try to make it useful without you shouldn't have to go to the library and sort of read all the definitions before you can answer. You should be able to pretty intuitively get what it's all about.
To comment about this part of like it's very clear language, basic and short. I think the last two of the SDGs I did it with my family. We did like a quiz at home. And we all fail, of course. But then we managed to get the diploma. So no, really good job, and all the tools are for free, right? Yes. Interesting. You should be very proud, Anna, and the team. Yeah, seriously.
Thanks. But I need to say then, I realize I said what you should do from our website, but I do actually think that you should probably read the book Factfulness that we wrote.
Okay.
That's probably step one.
It's on the homepage as well?
No. So that is a physical
like
book. A book,
sorry,
papers,
because I'm
text.
too much into the future now, thinking AI and...
we try to stay away from writing a book all the time because we're saying that today, why a book when we can do tools online that you can explore for free?
Yeah.
But then with more and more frustration, we felt that we didn't manage to get the whole picture clear for people. So then we wrote the book. And I do actually now, I have to admit that there was something with the format that actually made it, we got pieces together in a way we haven't done on the website. So maybe reading the book would be...
It's also a good idea.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. What was the name of it?
Factfulness.
Factfulness,
Even though as a starting point, our whole intention was not to write a book. But when we did, I see the point.
Yeah, that's really good to mention. Awesome. So now we are in the next part of the episode. It's going to be more questions about you. So let's say, Anna, if you can choose to be something else than being a human and being Anna, what will you choose to be? You can choose anything.
That's a very good question. I think we have 4 cats, and one of our cats is a wild brain. And right now, he's just 1 year old, and right now I'm pretty fascinated with his brain. So maybe I would like to be a cat if I could be like him. He's a weirdo and very hyperactive and strange. The other 3 cats are like cats.
Normal.
And this cat is very strange and very energetic and playful. And he seems pretty smart, but it's not really clear if he is.
Let's see.
So maybe I would like to be him because he seems like a happy spirit. In a way that I can enjoy. No, I have no idea what I would like to be, actually. I think I'm too... I'm not very good at thinking about different dimension in that sense. I think that's why I'm working with passion with the things I do that most people would feel was not something to be passionate about. Probably because I don't think like that. No.
And in 100 years from now, what would you love people to say about you when they read your name or when they see your name?
That's very interesting. I don't think I'm not driven by that, I think. I think I would be a little bit embarrassed if they were.
Really?
I never thought about like fame in that
Being
sense.
on,
But
on
no,
stage
but
and
no. But I mean, if we could have changed some, could have speeded up change so people make better decisions and are nicer to each other and think more about the poor, for instance. If that was something that could be done, then I would, of course, be happy if I was associated with it. But I'm not driven by that. I think the most important is that I don't want to be remembered as the egoistically career-driven. I would say I think I would like to be remembered by family and friends as wanting to do good. I think that's enough. I think,
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you think people will Google your name, or how will they find your name in the future?
I think I will be forgotten. I think they will have other things to do.
Come on.
No, I think that they will have there will be other things to focus on. Hopefully
to care about, like survive.
Yeah. I mean, I never Googled people 100 years ago.
No?
No.
Okay.
No, I can't remember when I did that last time.
Yeah, same here. Like, let me.
I mean, I think we should be forgotten. We should make good impact while we're alive. Make sure that people make good decisions.
Yeah.
And if that can be done, if I can have some positive effect, I'm happy. But I don't think I should have a name for that. No,
Yeah, interesting. Because usually we think a lot about the future and what's happening in the future, and we do everything for the future, but we kind of forget to do some impact now at the moment.
Yeah. So I'm more interested in that. That we should, and let's say if I would magically find a way where I could make a lot of poor people get a better life somehow, then I would prefer if they just got the better life and it was not focused on me, because otherwise I think when it comes to doing good, it very easily ends up in being a self-promoting activity. So I would say that would be, probably it would be good for my ego, but I think it would most likely be a bad thing for the project.
I understand. No, I'm happy to hear this answer from you. Like thinking more about the people and putting them in the front, and not only you.
Yeah, I think too much work and academic work and change processes are so focused on individuals. And so much PR machinery lifting certain individuals.
Yeah.
So I think the world would be, not going that direction.
Yeah.
I think could be a good thing.
I got your point. And now, like a question about leadership advice. So tell me a story about a leadership advice that you get in the past and it was really good. And then tell me about another leadership advice that you got, but it was not really good. Like it was a kind of bullshit.
The first one, a good leadership advice.
Yeah.
The one that comes to mind was pretty early on in our process. We have we have been starting to build our first visualizations with the bubbles and started to build the first drafts of Dollar Street. So it was pretty early. It was not mature at all. And then at the conference, we ended up meeting with Alan Kay, which is one of these gurus who invented almost everything in Silicon Valley.
Okay.
The laptop and, a lot of computer stuff, like a guru kind of guy.
Yeah.
We were standing talking to him, and I didn't realize it was him because he was so humble and so nice and so
down to
decent and down to earth.
Yeah.
So I think that is one thing, that you can be one of the big shots and you can be a reasonable and decent human being. That I think was very nice to meet. But he said early on, because we were talking with him, that we want to show, like, the technology we're about to build here. We want someone else to build it for us, someone who is better at building this kind of infrastructure. Do you have any advice? And the only thing he said was, like, you cannot delegate this because it's your project, it's your passion, you have to do it. It's impossible to delegate.
Wow.
And we were frustrated when he said it, like, so stupid. And why did he say that? And he's the pro, and why wouldn't he give us an idea of where we should look or who we should talk to? And he was like, it never works to delegate. If you have a passionate idea like this, you have to do it yourself, or it will not be done, or it will be done in the wrong way.
But it's very true, right?
Yeah. And now afterwards, I have to now a lot of years have passed, and I think he was totally right, because it's just, we did it ourselves. And of course, we had too limited funding. There was a lot of things we didn't know how to do. We lacked the proper technology. It's a lot of limitations. But no one else would have built the tool that we were foreseeing.
Exactly.
So we had to build it, and we built it in a low-tech way.
Yeah.
But it has to be done by us, and that, I think, was a really good advice.
I agree.
And also, we are quite often approached by people who want to present pitch ideas and solutions. Pitch ideas and sort of get
selling to you.
Or get us to give them advice and so forth. And then we have actually started responding that, because quite often they cannot show anything. They have a theoretical vision.
More an idea.
Yeah, an idea. And we're like, but if you can't, you have to show something. Because if you cannot show that you have done anything, then you're not invested enough and will not.
Why should we care and
invest? It will never happen
if you didn't
but
even
if you
start it.
Exactly. But if you, out of passion, have made a prototype of something that you're so passionate about, so you really want to show it, then we can discuss what you might do next, or is it meaningful, or blah, blah, blah. But when it's just theoretical, that is just escaping work and thinking someone else will do it, which will not happen according to Alan Kay. And now I think we have taken that to our hearts.
I think this is so true.
So
yeah.
Because talking is quick and easy, but actually doing stuff, it's cumbersome, boring, frustrating. You run out of money. You don't have the right people. People start. You have the right people, but then they disappear because something happens in their life. You have a lot of things happening, right?
Yeah.
So you just have to. If you can't build anything, then you shouldn't think that you will build it.
Yeah.
Start by building and see if it works.
Just
right?
do it. Yeah.
That will be the best way of selecting the ones who might do something from the ones who
talking.
Yeah, from talking. And bad advice, that would most likely be all the career advice you get, where you're supposed to, when you're young, you should do tactical moves to get a high status position. Because I think it's a risk if you're not following your own passions.
Yeah.
How, like this, if you're working hard to proceed a career you're not interested in, there will be others in the same career paths who are passionate.
Yeah.
So they will take the spots.
Easy.
And you have lost all those years doing something you think is boring, which is not very fun. But if you, on the other hand, try to do something you're passionate about, and then it turns out that it doesn't work out 100% perfectly fine, then you might be able to compensate and add on things. And hopefully later on, you will end up at least closer to where you want to be.
Yeah.
And then most likely, hopefully, you will have something more unique and something that where you can live with yourself.
Exactly.
That you spend time on it.
Yeah.
So I think a bad career advice is to do the high status choices without
like being passionate about what you're doing or believing in it, and you're just doing this for status or position.
There will always be people that are passionate in the high career areas too.
Yeah.
And then you stand there and you're bitter because you've been struggling to stay in that boring position.
Yeah.
And you will see how others more passionate might
take it.
Move. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really good point that you're highlighting now. Sometimes I see people just want to jump without actually doing the job, without having the skills, without showing at least some passion. But they just want to jump from one position to another position just to get this, like, okay, look, I'm having a fancy position and I get so much paid. But like the reality, they don't know how to do it. They don't did it. They don't put energy. They didn't invest. And it's like there's nothing behind this name, you know?
That's the risk.
That's very sad. And on the other hand, there are people like really working with what they're passionate about. And maybe it takes time, but they are in love with what they do every day.
And even if they fail career-wise and do not climb to the top, at least they have had more fun while they were doing it, most likely. And meeting people that were also interested in similar topics, which, I mean, on the bigger picture, that most likely they have had more quality time doing it.
Yeah.
And they will not die frustrated to the same extent, hopefully.
Yeah. Or they don't look at the time and wait until it's 5 so they can just go out from their office.
Yeah. Or wait. I mean, we have had I think we have seen a lot of people who, you know, they've done all these career moves that you're supposed to do. And then later in life.
Strategical.
Yeah. And then later in life, you see some of these people being very frustrated and they want to do something completely different.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to take a step back and suddenly be like totally creative.
Yeah, after so many
doing
years.
Something like freely when you've never done it. And the other ones that are doing it, they have been doing it all the time.
Yeah.
So then maybe it's hard to, even if you follow your passion and drop what you're doing.
Still, it's a kind of late, no?
Yeah, it's a risk that you will not.
Not the same.
Welcome, maybe not even welcome into
doing
that.
There are many aspects, like the welcome thing, being part of this. The energy, you're not the same as, like, even if you're working with your passion, maybe you're not the same as the other ones who already started from when they were like super young.
Yeah.
So there are many elements. Also, like, I got so many invitations to schools, to universities, to talk about should students work with what they're passionate about, or should they choose a work profession that they can generate money? So what is your advice to students? So let's say they start now to choose what they should work with, applying for a job.
Yes. I would say there are a lot of things, a lot of occupations where there is, of course, a limited amount of seats.
Yeah.
Not everyone can be a TV presenter.
True.
Because there aren't that many TV shows, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have certain jobs where you can go for them, but you should be aware that the number of positions might be so tiny, so you might have a plan B.
It's a high competition.
Yes, high competition.
Yeah.
But I don't think that necessarily means you shouldn't go for it. Because maybe when you did try, you realized it didn't really work out. Maybe you learned a lot of things along the way, and maybe you can find a position that is closer to a TV presenter, but within the field that is safer, where you can actually get some money, and then suddenly you will have a way of sustaining your life that is somewhat close to what you were dreaming of, but not exactly. I mean, I think my advice would be to go for the naive and unrealistic and passion driven first.
Yeah.
And most likely that will not work the whole way, because as I said, it's
reality.
naive and unrealistic,
Yeah.
but you will learn things from that. Maybe what you learn is that it wasn't that fancy. Maybe this wasn't your dream. Maybe this was just your
image.
Thought.
Your
thought dream.
Yeah.
But when you see what that is all like, and the competition, maybe you realize, I don't want to live a life with all that, those portions. And then you can put that away, and you know that you tried.
Yeah,
then you can move on.
Yeah,
I think now I know what my advice would be.
Yeah,
my advice would be to not think so much about getting a title and an occupation that you will keep for life. Start with what you're passionate about, and fail fast and often.
Exactly.
And don't see the failure as a failure. It's a learning, and it will take you closer to where you want to be.
Yeah.
And life will be painful, and most of the time, even if you follow your own dreams and do what you're passionate about, most of the time it will be pretty frustrating, boring, irritating.
Yeah.
And there will always be things that doesn't work your way. So don't expect when you go for your dream
everything will be pinky.
Everything will be perfect. It will not.
Exactly.
But at least go that direction.
Yeah. So you're not sad when you...
Yeah.
This is very good. And what kind of leaders do we need in order to save this planet?
I think we need smart people who are not arrogant, who have an overview of the inequality and focuses on the non-fancy, non-sexy, poorer portions of the world, and goes for making sure that the people get decent living conditions.
Yeah.
That is what I think we need. Because I think we also need boring people who have the energy to regulate what people with resources do.
Okay.
Because if people with resources can do whatever they want, they're gonna do that. And it might not be
for the good,
for the human good.
Yeah.
So I think we need to have a lot of regulations that limit the space of options we can do. And when I say we, I mean basically, the richest countries, what we do on a daily basis, that has to be regulated because we will not do it ourselves. I think
we will not stop.
I don't think we will. No. So we need to make sure that we cut down and really put these regulations around the lifestyles we have. And then I think we need to look at the poorest and make sure that they get a decent base.
Yeah.
And then the ones in the middle, they know what they are aiming for, and they might be able to get here.
Yes.
And
help the others.
And yes. So I think it's all about looking at the outliers.
Interesting. You're stressing this a lot, that we shouldn't forget about the others and so on. And I think it's because the fact, and what's happening, and you have an overall image. And it's very important. Yeah.
Yes.
And Anna, you mentioned that it's a lot of work and so on. For me, it's also important to see how other people manage their life, work-life balance, family, hobbies, and so on, because they are a part of also you. So first question gonna be, what are your hobbies? Do you have hobbies, or right now it's not so many because you work a lot?
I would say I work much less than I did when we started.
Sure, yeah.
Now I think we are in a more normal position, right? When we started, then we were working 7 days a week, almost always, and we were working throughout.
24/7.
Yes, we worked all the time. Actually,
but to get it happen, you need a kind of
yeah. So that was how we started,
Yeah.
and we did it for very many years.
Okay.
It changed when we got our first kid.
Yeah.
Then we started to become a little bit more decent. And now with 3 kids, I think we're better at it.
Okay, cool.
But I wouldn't say good. I think we're very bad. Yeah, we're no role models because we haven't. I don't think we have managed to do it in a good way.
Okay.
I think we worked so hard, so we got so super tired. So now we try to work as hard, but we don't have the capacity left. Something like that.
Yeah.
So we should probably have been a little bit more, saved some energy and sort of poured it out over life. I don't know. No, but to relax, I would say we spent quite a lot of time with our 3 kids.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not making it easier to work together, because then it's very easy that you continue to talk work when you're free
at
time.
home. Yeah.
It's actually like a year back or something, we started to have weekends. We have never had that.
Seriously?
We have been,
But like not the every weekend. Wow.
We have had it very fluid.
Wow.
And we sort of, I think we enjoy having it fluid.
It's because also you're passionate about the thing.
Yeah, and it goes, working on projects and fluid, and then in periods we work super hard, and periods we work less hard.
Yeah.
And that's pretty neat in a way. But we actually noticed when we decided we should not work weekends.
Yeah.
I mean, not rocket science. Most people don't, I guess. It actually changed quite a lot.
Yeah.
It was, so that has been the most recent experience, that weekends are pretty neat. And then I think would say we're pretty interested in what our kids are interested in.
Okay.
Because we learn from them.
Interesting.
I think. So we try to keep up to date with what games they are playing, and we try to watch TV series together with them that they recommend.
Wow, that's really good.
We try to listen to music they listen to, so making
Keeping
sure
the
that
company.
but making sure. I think we have a bigger interest in learning about their life than they should have about learning about ours.
Okay.
And I think we have realized that Ola's dad, Hans, he was listening to us and were interested in what we were doing. And my dad has always been interested in what the younger generations are doing.
Yeah.
And I think that is probably the way forward to stay a little bit relevant, to actually be, if you're not curious on what is coming, then it's very easy to become super irrelevant.
Exactly.
But listening to what they are talking about, looking at the memes they are interested in, and trying to embrace it, and embrace also the very non-theoretical, non-fact-driven portions of it.
Yeah.
And trying to see the world from their perspective.
It's trying to mind the gap between generations.
But it's mostly, it's not, now it sounds like a very strategic move, but it's not.
It's just
more like,
by,
it's actually pretty fun to hang out with the young ones, because they have a different way of thinking about life, because they have everything ahead.
True.
And it's very interesting to hear how they resonate while talking to people in our generation. We're a bit more, I think, in a phase where we try to evaluate, what did it become? Is this what it should be? It's another phase, and it's refreshing to hearing the kids reasoning.
You feel also young.
Yeah, we try to piggyback on that, I guess. No, but we see on their looks that we're very old, but we learn from them, it's a way of. I think that is what we do. Mostly try to hang out
with them.
them.
Do you have, Anna, a specific hobby you do or no?
No, I wouldn't say I have. I mean, of course, I thought I was going to become a photographer, so I spent 5 years of my life doing photography. So of course I'm
5
still
years.
yes,
That's many years actually.
many years.
Yeah.
So I probably do take more photos with my iPhone than most people. So if that could be called a hobby, maybe, but it's not like I don't have a real hobby with it's a time in the calendar when I do a certain thing.
I
Nothing
understand
like
you.
that.
I understand you.
But
you enjoy a lot making pictures with your phone.
Yeah, that might be the closest to hobby I get. And I do like to binge watch series with the kids, and I love to cook. I forgot that.
Oh yeah,
I do like that.
Yeah. Now we're talking.
I forgot, but that I do
like. Swedish or no?
Different.
Different.
Yeah,
right?
I like to cook different things.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not very good at following recipes, but I do like to. Yes, but I do like to eat food from different countries, and I do like to try to mimic. In a way.
Yeah.
I usually fail because I start to improvise in the recipes, but I do like to cook.
Yeah. So if I ask you now, like, if we can order something, what would you like us to order? Something you love to eat now.
Yesterday I did the duck with the Asian, some kind of an Asian sauce.
Yeah.
That I can
eat it one more
No, I do like. I'm not very much into cooked bananas, and I'm not so much into rice and beans. But I think it's okay and enjoyable. But I do like. I think I like variation. I like variation.
Yeah.
I can say
that's good.
It goes up and down what I'm doing.
It's also good when you work with World Fact, different countries and so on. So you get also more images and taste as well.
Yeah.
Maybe. So Anna, now we are in the last section of this episode, and we have 3 questions left. The first one is, you give a message to yourself.
Then I think I would say that I should be kind to myself. Enjoy, think that it's good enough. That I've been working for many years with trying to reach, to make some of the passionate goals come through, and honestly, the visions are always bigger than what you manage to accomplish in real life. But thinking, knowing that I've been working seriously and hard to achieve a goal, even if I haven't reached it, because it was probably unrealistic to start with, to be happy enough about trying. And also, another advice would be that I think it's important to embrace when you or people around you change. To allow things to change.
To change, yeah.
That I think, because it's very easy to end up in a closed position where you have decided already who you are, what you stand for, and how you do things. And if you start to dream about doing something a little bit differently, then it's easy to be hard on yourself.
Yeah.
Or on others. But we had agreed. You are a sort of person who is like this, but now you're doing differently. I mean, allowing people, including yourself, to change.
Yeah. And the next question is that you give 3 takeaway messages to our listeners.
About what they should do, or about...
In general, what should they do? What should they think about? Any message, 3 messages to them.
Be true to yourself. Try to do things you're passionate about and be kind.
Yeah. And the last question in this episode is going to be you asking it to me and to our listeners. So what is your question to us?
Then my question would be, if you have listened so far to this point, what would that change how you will do things?
Good question. Well, I'm very happy. I'm very inspired by our conversation. And what I want to say to you and to your team, like, thank you so much for changing the image we have about the world. And what you do is so important. And thanks again for coming, for giving your valuable time to record this episode.
Thank you for having me.